What's up, people? This your boy Humble Dad back with another edition of Humble Dad Podcast. We got a special treat for you today. We're gonna be talking about what Salt and Pepper said a long time ago. We're gonna be talking about sex. All right. We're gonna be talking about conversations that we have with our kids regarding the birds and the bees. And I got some adult people with me, and definitely interested in seeing what it is that they got to say. And we're gonna start with my homie, my friend. Introduce yourself to the people, Mr. Quest.
What's up, everybody? It's Quest, man. What's going on, Humble Dad? I appreciate you having me on the show.
Absolutely appreciate you being here. What's one fun fact about yourself, bro?
I'm not gonna do what you want me to do. Fun fact about me is I retired at 38 years old, and now I'm a stay-at-home dad.
That's a beast move right there. Welcome to the stage, Shanteri. How's it going?
It is fantastic for a Monday night.
Listen, that's what's up. Monday nights are not always great.
They are not.
So tell the
They
people
are
one fun
not.
fact about yourself.
Oh, goodness. Fun fact. Most people don't believe this, but I have 4 children,
Mm.
and 2 of them are teens. We pushing them out.
So you
We
ready
pushed
for
them out the first way. Now we're going to push them out the other way.
this? So you ready for this?
No, they can stay as long as they want.
That's what's up. Coming to the stage, Mr. Sir Hell Speaks. How's it going, sir?
It is going fantastic. If I can do this, can I show some respect to Humble Dad? I just want to give you a hand clap. Thank you so much for having me tonight. Thanks so much for letting me be here. Glad to be here tonight.
That's what's up. Give us one fun fact about yourself, Sir Hell Speaks.
I want America to know this, that LeBron James is the GOAT, and I believe that. And that's the fun fact about Sir Hill Speaks tonight.
So you started with violence, bro. Like,
Hey, I like him already.
Listen, I don't even have time to go into it. I'm gonna respect y'all time. And then my homie that made me do this on a consistent basis, Mr. D Wayne.
Oh man, I'm a little disappointed about that LeBron, but we'll work it out. We'll work it out. Uh, Dwayne, four kids, been married 7 years, um, and two boys and 2 girls. Character building express. Um, as for a fun fact, I guess that would be it. But fun fact, I say I'm trying to be a jack of all trades.
That's what's up. Well, I appreciate everybody being here today. This is gonna be good because I just came up with these questions today. You know what I'm saying? But I think that's some good questions, right? All right. So the first question of the day is, what is one takeaway you got from your father/dad? Whether he was in the picture or out of the picture, what was a takeaway that you got from your father? It could be one or two, doesn't really matter. And anybody can go first.
I'll go. One fun fact I got from my dad: how to change a tire and how to check my oil.
That's what's
That
up.
was it. He made sure us ladies, you should never get caught on the side of the road and have to depend on a man to help you because you never know if they're crazy. So he showed me how to check my oil and change my tire.
So how often do you do that, or do you get somebody? You pay somebody to do it?
You know what? I've only had to do it once in my life, honestly. And nowadays, it's hard to, you really can't fix your own tire with the way that they put the lug nuts on there. It's not something you can twist off. You need those fancy machines to do it. So since I pay for roadside, I just call the people.
That's what's up. Who got next?
I mean, my dad taught me how to fight. He taught me that. He taught me that junk young. Um, yeah, my dad was like at the time he was like an 8th degree black belt in karate. So he got a lot of discipline. I think that's one of the places where I get my discipline from. But I remember being young at Gaines Park down there in West Palm Beach, Florida. He would hold like karate classes, and he would put me up against the biggest dudes in the class. So I was constantly getting my ass kicked
Oh wow.
by bigger
Wow.
kids. You know what I'm saying? So I had to get it out the mud when it came to throwing them hands. So I learned that early, like how to fight. I think that's important, and just not being fearful, not being afraid.
That's what's up. So when was your first victory? Do you remember your first victory when you had to throw them hands?
Oh, in karate class, or I mean just in general?
Hey, you can give me either one you want to give me. Or you want to give me both?
So
That's cool too.
I don't think I ever want to fight in karate class. So like the fight I remember winning. It was a couple fights in high school. Actually, no, it was a couple fights in middle school that I won. But as far as like the first one, I don't necessarily remember when the first one was. The ones that really stand out is the ones where I was getting my ass kicked.
Oh, wow. That's what's up. I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah.
Who got next?
I say my pops, he taught me how to drive a stick shift. That was pretty cool. Most cars are trying to go away from it now, and if I get a new one, it has to be a stick shift. It's gonna be difficult, but it has to be. And then he also taught me how to have engage in difficult conversations. Usually, as with most people, tend to shut down, but he taught me the importance of having those difficult conversations. That's for the whys, and knowing your whys and the reason and why you do certain things. So much appreciate that.
Hey, so my father, so I didn't have a lot of time with him. He passed when I was 5, but there was something he did when I was 5 years old. My father was one of those Kentucky Fried Chicken eating brothers, and so he had a little belly. And so when I was 5 years old, we were in the basement in Illinois, and I was playing in some clothes, a pile of clothes, and he just laid on me. Like he put his belly on me and I couldn't get from under it. And I'm like, Dad, let me up. Let me up. I'm crying, I'm screaming, I'm snotting. I'm like, Dad, let me up. And he just sitting there just chilling, ain't moving. And he said he didn't move because he was trying to get me to use my strength. And once I got from under that, it took me a little bit of time. To me, my whole world was coming to an end. I'm like, I'm not gonna survive. But once I came from under that, he gave me a big smile. In that lesson, that I was able to overcome that. I have carried that in my entire life, so that no matter what I deal with, I can overcome anything with some persistence and some determination. So that's what I got from my father.
That's what's up. I can add a little bit to this. I said for me, I felt like I didn't learn much from my father because he wasn't there oftentimes. But what I realized that I did learn in his absence was how much I wanted to be a dad. Like what it is that I missed, I wanted to give to my kids. And so that's how I rock now. And that's the reason why I do Humble Dad, because I want dads to be on spotlight. And even though I didn't have one, but I want other people to say, this is cool being a dad. Because I enjoy being a dad, even though it's work. Later it'll be rewarded. Me and Dwayne was talking about it off site. But hey, we're going to get into this conversation. So appreciate that for y'all sharing, man. We're going to get into some heavy topics. Y'all ready? That was a light one, right? So the question is, well, should boys and girls be parent? Well, if somebody said boys and girls should be parented differently, do you agree or disagree, and why? Boys and girls should be parented differently. Why or why not?
So yes and no. So when it comes to things like integrity, being accountable, right? Those kind of things, those have to be the same. But we can't treat our girls like boys, and we can't treat our boys like girls, because that creates confusion. And I'll say it like this: boys typically have great strength, whether they want to or not, just biological. So if you give boys who have that inner strength, you give them a female kind of emotional template, well, they're gonna do all kind of damage, criminality, fights all the time. And so boys have to be raised to control themselves. They have to be disciplined, right? They have to have that foundation. Girls, there's it's similar to them as well, but not to the same degree as boys. And so while we have to raise them the same in terms of character, in terms of how to conduct themselves, there has to be a clear difference.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta look at the outcome. What is the outcome that we want for our sons? Do we want them to be good housewives? Do we want them to be so? No, I mean, I don't. Do I want them to be good moms? No. I want them to be good fathers, good husbands, you know. Yeah, and the exact opposite for my daughter. Like I want her to be, you know, great at being a mother, being a nurturer, being someone that knows how to take care of a husband and a household. You know what I'm saying? And I want my son to be able to go out and slay dragons and bring home resources to a household. So that's going to come with different teaching points and different ways that you know tutelage these kids, man. Like it can't be the same. But I do agree with what Sir Hale speaks when it comes to integrity, accountability, morals, and actual ethics. Now, I think that's very important that is a standard across the board. So yeah.
I would have to agree with both Quest and Sir Hill Speaks. When Sir Hill was talking about integrity and things like that, I was actually also thinking about financial literacy. And I honestly think that boys should be taught differently with financial literacy than girls because they should be taught to lead the home and make wise financial decisions. Not saying that women cannot do the same thing, but it is different to lead a home financially and make sure that your family is secure than it is to be a wife and a mother who is there to support. Women also need to understand vision and understand how to uplift a vision of a man. So there definitely has to be differences in the way that boys and girls are raised, which is why it's important to have a two-parent home. God knew the plan in the beginning. He understood how he wanted that to be. There is nothing wrong with God's plan. And so I know that a lot of single parents out here, Humble Dad, you know, you're widowed and raising your children on your own right now, but there are definitely things that you can take from women in your family to help support you in raising your girls with the things that they need. So.
Yeah, I think y'all touched all the bases on that. But I think the world is definitely letting the devil use them, saying that they're just equal. The integrity piece, the moral piece, yes, that's equal. But as for they're wired differently. So, like Quest was saying, that's for the boys. Hey, go out there, slay that dragon, go out there, handle up. And then as for the females, it's a different approach. But I do like what you said, Shantiri, about the finances because I think that's typically overlooked. But y'all did good. I like that. Good perspective.
And I'm gonna add one other thing too. Like, you know, Miss Shanteri. I want to make sure I pronounce. Okay, so Miss Shanteri, you're absolutely right. Right, like being raised in a two-parent household is very important. Humble Dad knows this because we've been on multiple panels together. That like that was part of my criteria on determining or deciding on who was going to be the woman I spent the rest of my life with. Right, like I wanted that woman to have been raised in a dual parent household. Right, so just watching her move throughout motherhood and being a wife, like it helps me understand how to determine, like how to differentiate, like how a little girl should be raised versus how a little boy should be raised, right? Because I have a living, breathing example sitting in my household right now. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, no, I think that's very important. You know, kids being raised in dual parent household. Yeah.
So then, what is the scenario that which, because you're saying they're going to be raised differently. So what's a scenario where you're going to say, okay, this is how I parent my boys, this is how I parent my girls. Like, what's a situation that you can describe where it would be that much of a difference?
I'd love to get this one. So, when it comes to my girls, so I'm a married man, 15 years, 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. And so there's some things, and I've called this traditional. I always see the feminist scream when I say things like this, but I'm going to say it anyway. So I don't want my girls taking out no trash. Can they? Absolutely, they can. I don't want my girls mowing the lawn. Can they? Absolutely. I don't want them to do that. Those are things for my boys to do. Like when it comes to fixing things. Now, are they industrious? They absolutely are because their mom is. But I want my girls focused on things like taking care of stuff, interpersonal skills, nurturing, being able to assist and help, those kind of things. And I want my boys to do the heavy lifting. I want them to take pride in taking responsibility, owning it, and being great at that. I want them to enjoy it. I want them to love it, right? And so I think when it comes to those kind of things, those are some of the basics that that plays out every day in our household.
That's good. Anyone else? Oh, y'all quiet on them. Okay, y'all ready for y'all want like,
I'll say something. I think it's important to talk about the differences in how we communicate, because boys and girls don't communicate the same way. Now, as a single mom now, I am struggling, to not necessarily say the wrong things to my son, right? I want him to have that masculine approach to things, but I also know that he is the type of boy at his age. He's 9. So if the voice comes up, then he is very much, a crier. And there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, I have to learn as a mother when I am communicating with him how I can get a point across, because I'm trying to raise a son as a woman. So I think being able to differentiate in how we communicate with our children is very important. I cannot speak to him the same way that I speak to my daughters. There are things that I can pinpoint with my girls that I cannot say to him. There are conversations that we can't have. So communication is one of those big things when you're in a home that you have to do differently when it comes to boys and girls. As a school teacher, I cannot talk to boys the same way that I talk to girls. They are men at the very end of the day. Yes, they are 11, 12, 13, but they are men. I believe that I teach men. I do not teach boys. That has always been my preface in a classroom. You are a boy for a short time. You will be a man for the rest of your life. So the way that I approach a boy in a classroom or a young man in a classroom has to be different than I would talk to a boy. Men are very prideful, whether they want to agree to it or not. So I can't just be slick at the mouth with them at all times. I may be able to do that a little more freely with young women, but with men, you have to be very careful in how you communicate with them, because they will shut down. So,
Miss Shanteri, on behalf of America, absolutely.
That's real. Like, I have 2 boys and 2 girls. And so when I'm communicating with my daughter, my mindset is, how would I want her husband to communicate to her? Right. Now, she saw me and her mom. She saw those kind of spats or whatever every now and then. But at the end of the day, she would oftentimes see me talking to her mom in a soft tone, even though, I may be in a disagreement. Right. And then when I'm communicating with her and it's something that I don't like about what she did, I have to take a lighter tone more times than not. Whereas with my sons, they're getting all the Barry White, right? And so, and for those that don't know what that means, there's just a lot of bass in the voice, right? And so when I'm communicating with my sons, I'm talking to them really matter of fact, very stern. I'm not even really watching necessarily how I say it, but I'm definitely kind of watching some words that won't belittle them, but actually trying to get my point across to them that, listen, I'm trying to raise you to be a man, and the thing that you're currently doing is not going to be tolerated at any point in time in your life, So that is what I'm trying to do with my boys and my girls, because at the end of the day, as Kirk Cameron said, we're raising somebody's spouse. All righty. Somebody else wanted to add to that?
Yeah, so okay, so when I had my daughter, I was a lot younger. I didn't necessarily have all the patience in the world, I'm getting better now. You know, my daughter, she is 11. She'll actually be 12 here in October. Um, so when she was first born, like I didn't have it all together up top, you know, as far as like being a father, raising a child. So I was doing things like how it was done to me. Like I was yelled at and I was talked to a certain type of way, and I was doing the exact same thing with my daughter. Um, so time passed. I got better at that. But then, you know, I have conversations with my wife, and she's like, you know, we have conversations about, you know, other topics, for example, and when it comes to specifically our women and accountability and things like that. And my wife always says, I don't have any issues with accountability because the way my father used to talk to us and reinforce different things with me as a girl, a young girl, like I don't have any issues with the way certain messages are delivered because I heard firmness in my household, right? So I'm like, oh wow. So now I'm like, now I'm firm, but I'm intentionally firm and not just, you know, you know, no intention, no, you know, no thought, just all emotions. Now it's very intentional when I'm stern and firm with my daughter. So, um, yeah, I wish I could go back in time and take some of that back, right, and take the emotion out of it. But we are here, and there is no book for this, so kind of learning as we go or whatever. So, yeah.
That's good. That's good. So we're gonna go to the next topic. I really appreciate the dialogue because this is kind of spinning my wheels as well in how I can be a better parent in the space that I'm in. So this is really good. So since we're talking about discussing different things, or not different things, but talking to our boys and our girls differently, then what would be the proper time frame to discuss sex with your kids? Since you're talking, we talk to boys different than we talk to girls differently. When would that be appropriate time? Or maybe we'll start with this. Let's start with, well, I'll ask that question, then I'll ask a follow-up question. When would be appropriate time?
Actually, so I asked myself that before I had the conversation about birds and bees and all this other stuff with my daughter. I would ask myself this question all the time: when is the right time? Like I don't know. We had the conversation. She was what age was she? 10 years old. I think she was 10 when we had the conversation. But part of the reason why we're having the conversation is because my wife, me, and my daughter were sitting here on the couch watching Kevin Samuels and learning a lot of things, learning different thought processes that may not have been something I knew growing up, right? You know, but she would have questions, and you know, I'm not one to hold back. I'm gonna give you the answers. If you're old enough to ask the questions, I think you're old enough to hear the answers to those questions. Especially if you know exactly what you're asking. Not like when you're 5 years old, like, oh, what's sex, Dad? Like, I know you don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about you're 10 now, and you're very deliberate about the questions that you're asking. Then I'm going to be very deliberate about my answers, and I think you are mature enough to be able to handle those answers because it takes some cojones to ask certain questions, you know, to your father. Especially when it comes to like sex and things like that. So, you know.
My response to this is as soon as you let them have access to the internet, prepare them. Because in the world today, and my wife showed me this as being a teacher, I would have never known this. These kids are exposed to sexuality at like 5 and 6. Like I'll never forget my wife telling me there was some students. I'm thinking like these teenagers. These kids aren't even double digits. They're suspended because they're performing acts because they saw their parents doing this. And so I think if this was like 1990s, then I would say around that 8, 9, 10. Sadly, in 2022, It's whenever you give your kids access to a phone, right? So I say if you allow them access to the internet, you may not be able to give them full details on everything because you know the kids are curious, and the more you try to tell them what not to do, they're going to do that more. But I think you have to start gradually having that conversation once they're exposed to the internet. And then the second part is knowing their friends, because sometimes they go to their friend's house and their friend got a big brother or sister, and they're filtering information. It's like trickling down from what the big brother said to them, and then they're telling your child that. So you have to be prepared and ask a lot of questions, like creating that relationship where your kids want to talk to you, because in a conversation about milk and cookies or something going on, they'll just happen to tell you what was said. You know, Daddy, this person talked about this body part, or somebody said my a kid licked this part, and that's the time that you need to really take control of that situation and provide context and insight so that the kids' curiosity doesn't lead them to do something that might harm them. So the internet and then their friends, whenever that happens, that's when it's time to start having that conversation.
I absolutely concur with that. The internet, like it changed. It's a completely different dynamic now. So I'm not this foolish to think that my daughter didn't already know about birds and the bees before we had this conversation, right? I'm not that naive. I'm not that foolish, right? So yeah, the internet has completely changed everything when it comes to this conversation particularly.
I was actually going to say they really should start learning it from, I don't want to say birth, but as a toddler, because sex is a building, right? We have to teach body parts. Then we have to teach appropriate touch of those body parts to our children. Some people take their children to daycare. Some people take their children to relatives' houses. And everybody has a story about an aunt, an uncle, a cousin who has slick fingers. You know what I mean? Growing up. So I think your child, even before they have access to a computer or internet, it has to be a building block. These are your parts. These are your private areas. These things should not be touched. So it's a constant exposure. And then once they get with the friends, once they get to the school, once they have access to internet, then we have deeper conversations about broader topics of what sex is or sexuality. I totally agree with knowing who their friends are. My children have had a group of friends that we've kind of all rocked with, the parents. We had babies all together. And I have gained the most insight from those women and their children than I could have ever. We actually started, and I think this is a great thing for dads as well. We started having girl weekends every summer. We would get our girls together. We would come up with a specific topic that we were going to discuss and be our focus. And one of them was sex one year. Another one was female things, as we mature. And we allowed the girls to go away independently on their own. And then we as mothers were able to talk, and we were able to share things that each of their children were dealing with. And so then I knew what my kids were being exposed to, even through what those parents were talking to their daughters about, because quite naturally as friends, they're going to discuss these things when they're off privately. So it really gave me some insight on things that I could even talk to my own children about and follow up with them. Hey, have you seen these things? Have you heard these things at school? What things are going on in your classrooms? As an educator, I know I have seen the books where they're writing notes down. You will not believe what your children and their friends are doing in the public schools. It's quite amazing. So birth up.
What grade levels are you?
I have taught 6 through 8 primarily was my focus, but 6th graders are coming in with a wealth of knowledge about sex. Some of it is being misinformed. A lot of it is being very curious about things. Some of them come in thinking that kissing is sex and having these misinterpretations. And then they'll meet a friend who allows them to understand. I've had kids, one working in schools whose parents live in a 1-bedroom apartment, and so they are laying in bed with the parents, and the parents are not stopping to put them into different rooms. So there is a number of things that American children are dealing with in homes, and they tell their friends. It is quite scary out here.
All right, so man, a beautiful perspective. So I had to literally dip into my bag on this one. So I'm surprised I still had it. So at our church, probably about I'd say close to 2 years ago, we had the opportunity to take a class, and it was about how to talk to your children about sex, and it breaks down like the different age brackets. And I'll be completely honest. I did not understand whenever they were saying when they got down to between 2 and 4 as an age bracket, and I was like, wow. So I have a stepdaughter, and she'll be 17 in December, and I'm like, man, we done missed about 3 brackets, different age groups. So the first one they have listed down is between 2 and 4. The next age bracket is between 5 and 8. Next age bracket is 9 to 12. Next age bracket is 13 to 20. So I found it fascinating because the perspective of talking to your toddler, like you were saying, Shantiri, is very, very, very important, because it allows you, or allows them, to then accurately identify things that go wrong that are not supposed to. So they gave an example of, well, so and so touched my cookie. So whenever you name your private parts in these little cutesy name or whatever, no, it's straight, hey, this is this, that is that, and you don't skirt around it. But I find it very, very, very important. And I, just like y'all were touching, like, if we don't talk to our children about sex, somebody definitely will. Definitely will. I mean, some people, get these cell phones. I trust my kids. You can trust your kids all day long, but do you trust other people? Do you trust other people? And I don't. I do not. And Sir Hale, you made mention of their friends. Man. Oh man, we got caught slipping. So it's like putting your trust or unguided trust in other people, and that's tough whenever it comes down to it, and you're like, man, you caught me slipping. So having your kids stay the night at other people's house, that's a tough, that's a tough one, because it's not like in your own home where you can see what's going on and stuff like that, and that's very, very important. But I do have a little quick story about my son. He's 4, and something happened at school where a young lady touched his penis. So we had a conversation about it, and we got home. The school talked to us about it, and then we got home. I talked to him about it, sat him down, asked him what happened and all that. He was like, this is what happened, and then I didn't, and he said, but Dad, I didn't touch her penis though. And I said, you know what? We talked to him about this part, but we haven't talked to him about this other part. So it's like, I didn't stop him and go into it then and there, but it was just very interesting that he was able to use that. And even my 2-year-old, who's about to be 3, same thing. Hey, my penis. He'll actually call it his name, cutesy name. And it's like, all right. So just from that class, I was able to learn how to have those conversations with my kids, because again, like I was saying, I missed the boat on our oldest, which, it's just like you were saying, Quest, man, I wish I could, bring it back so that we can, go through and lay it out right.
So then as y'all was speaking, I had a different question. I had another question, which was for the individual that is married. Let's start right there. That's married. Who converses with who? Or is there, who would do the talking about sex? I'll ask you like that.
Both.
Okay, break that down for me. I know you're saying both, but like,
yeah. So the way a lot of us colored folks have gotten it wrong, because we be like, I want the man to talk to the, well, this is how the conversation goes. Wife comes to her husband, babe, it's time for you to talk. Husband, like, talk about what? Talk about sex. You got a thing, he got a thing. So because y'all got things, you can talk to him about things that I can't talk to him about, right? That's generally how it goes. And the same thing with the woman. What you start to realize, though, if you really want to educate your daughters, a father needs to tell his daughters what to look out for, because there are going to be some boys, and I would say this is going to be so important for young girls, because not only do they have to wrap their head around their sexuality, but around attention. And a lot of us fathers were not raised to prepare our girls. So we talked about sex. We didn't teach them about how to handle attention. And if a father can get in front of that early, a young girl knows that she expects attention and that there's going to be guys who want to have sex with her. And the deeper thing, she might want to go all the way and do that with them, right? But to teach her that these are normal feelings, but you have to respect yourself. You don't let people touch on you. You are valuable. When that comes from a father, she doesn't feel ashamed for what she feels. It's human, but she's got parameters and she's got some trust with her dad and some guidance on how to handle that. And then the same thing with the boys as well. I think both have to say it, but when a mother tells her son what to look out for, it's because mama knows all the tricks. Right? Don't you let no girl tell you to touch her here or do this right here. And if you do this, she'll do this to you. Like when there's a mixture. Now, when it comes to being graphic, mama has to do that, because we don't want to blur the lines and go and cross the lines, because it's a very sensitive thing. So when it's time to get graphic as it become of age, mama has to step in there and handle more of that. And then the same thing with the dad. But they both have to be involved in this conversation.
Wait, so I'm kind of lost. Why? Because the conversation gets graphic, does mom have to step in and have the conversation versus dad?
Well, so with my 13-year-old, there's some things that I can say. So I've learned to do one thing. Either I'm the initiator and then my wife is the support. She comes and reiterate what I say, or it flips. My wife goes and say it, and then I come and reiterate what she says. And so as they get older, because of trust and because you don't want them to feel embarrassed and ashamed, it's best for a wife to you tackle that one. And you know that as you know your children, you let your wife step in and then you come back and you support what she says. And that way the message is communicated. But my wife and I, we done talked about what needs to be said. So we're both in agreement.
Right.
It just sometimes daughters or son might be comfortable, talking about different stuff when it comes to really explaining stuff with different parents.
And your 13-year-old is a young lady or a young boy?
Yep. I got a 15-year-old, 13-year-old, 11, and a 10-year-old. Yep. So 2 boys, 2 girls.
Okay.
Yep. And each of them are different. My young boy is like, look at him, titties. Oh my God. I'm like, son, control your hormones. Control yourself. My girls are a little bit more bashful. So each of them have their own personalities. And so we try to approach them on their level. So
Man, I wish I had a soundboard.
Hey, for real, is that right there?
Oh my God, that would have been.
Yeah. So like I say typically, so our dynamic is a little different here, right? So my daughter, she actually lives with her mother in Atlanta, right? So she doesn't live with me and my wife. And we have an 18-month-old son here, my nuclear household, right? My wife, me, and my son, right? But when my daughter does come here, and like I said, the conversation that came up when she was 10, right? I'm the one that leads the conversation because I'm her actual parent, right? And my wife, she's always right there to support me, through any of these any conversation, really. She's just right there on my hip, ready to support me. Yeah. So I think it's one of them things where it's like, yeah, I see what you mean. When sometimes they get too graphic, then she'll jump in there. So what he means is, you know what I'm saying? So I can appreciate that. She does have a little bit more of a graceful touch on
a woman's touch, so to speak.
Yeah. So I don't know. In my head, like I just come from a world that's just so graphic, in itself, right? From traveling all across the world, seeing the wildest and the worst things possible in the world, seeing them in my face, it kind of like, it takes it, I mean, it's different. I'll just say that. I'm cut a little different. So, it's great to have a wife who understands what I've seen and what I've been exposed to, and being able to kind of help soften them edges up a little bit, because sometimes them edges are very, very sharp. And corners are very sharp. So yeah, no, it's definitely needed for sure.
Yeah, the approach we take. Again, our oldest is about to be 17, and she's it's a young lady, and then our next is a 5-year-old, and my two youngest are boys. So haven't had to engage in those conversations with my sons, the graphic conversations. But as for mom will engage in those graphic conversations with Nevaeh, and I, I the way I see my role in that, I, I just, I guess, give her the perspective from the guy. Like, take it to a dog park. You see that dog? Watch him. He'll bounce from dog to dog to dog to dog to dog. That's these dudes nowadays, and it's difficult. It's very difficult to find a man within all these boys, because, like, yes, like Shantiri said, like, hey, yes, they will become men, but right now they have a lot to work out. And with all they see on TV, oh my goodness, with their access to pornography, their perception of what is realistic is, in my opinion, warped. Because, hey, like what Sir Hill said, well, look at them titties, right? So, like, as for the sexualization and the objective or objective, I don't know, looking at women as objects, like that's men, that they're wired in a different way. But I don't desire for my daughter to be put out there like that. And this world just puts females out there like that and makes them like they're material, or a product or an object. And I desire for her, for someone to desire her for her intellect, for who she is as a person, versus, like, damn, she fine, or no, I desire something deeper for her. So as for teaching her what to look out for, man, that's how I believe I could play my role. Will I be able to, shoot straight with her? Absolutely. But then, as for the graphics parts for the female, I leave that to mom. Whenever it comes to the boys, though, I'm gonna let them have it.
Did you want to add to this, Shantari, or you?
I think the men have done a great job at answering this one. I do agree, though. I do agree that both parents should be involved in conversations about sex. And to each house, however you do it, as children mature and they need to learn things. We're not perfect people. We're not going to be perfect in how we respond to this. Do what works best for you. So,
I did have a question. This is something we kind of skipped right past earlier. I think it was Dwayne had said, kids spending the night at other kids' houses or whatever. So I got a question for the panel. Would you allow your little girl, if you have a boy and a girl, would you allow your girl to stay the night? How am I asking this? Would you allow your boy to stay the night versus your girl stay the night at his or her friends' houses? Does that make sense what I'm asking? Sounds kind of silly.
yeah.
Yes. So there's a song that came out by a gentleman. I can't think of his name, but it goes a little like this: hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no, to the no, no, no. So in this day and age, it's a no. And it's because I don't trust people. I just simply don't trust people, because we grew up in an age where we thought that it was men trying to get little girls. Let's just be honest for a second. The truth is now is women trying to get these little boys, and both trying to get both. And so unless you have a deep trust, then it's a no. It's a complete no.
So I asked because it sounds like everybody on the panel has multiple kids and they all live together, correct?
Mhm.
So right now I have a son. Like we're working on, number 2. But I have a son and he lives by himself, and I was raised as an only child myself as well. So
Mm.
it's like I used to always want to go hang out at my partner's house or whatever because it's just me and my mama. And for a little boy, that can be fucking boring. You know what I mean? Let's just be realistic here. You know what I'm saying? But I had my cousins and things like that. But there was sometimes I wanted to hang out with my homeboy. And he'd be like, "Oh, you can stay tonight. We can play PlayStation, play games, and my mom would just be like, "No, I'm not doing that." And I remember her let me do it once, and it was super dope. It was super cool. So now I'm sitting here and I think to myself, right? If I had a little girl and a little boy in the household together, I personally don't think I would have an issue with my son going to stay the night at his homeboy's house. I ain't talking about no girls, at his buddy's house, his boy. Um, Clearly, if I knew who the parents were and I had some, level of respect and trust there or whatever, but I don't care if I had that exact same level of trust and respect for those parents. And let's say, for instance, they had a little girl and my daughter wanted to stay the night with her home girl, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it at all.
See, I'm the same way with that. But see, and just what I've seen is that's how a lot of people get young boys, is because we don't expect that the same thing that could happen to your girl would happen to your boy. And in these days, it absolutely will. And so that's what I'm saying. In this day and age, we got to be careful for both. I will say what you said. What you said is what I agree with. Unless you know them and you get to know people
Right.
under certain circumstances. But in general, I can count on one hand how many people my kids we call it spend a night. I can count on one hand how many times they spend a night at somebody's house. We don't play. I'll keep it at that. It goes a lot deeper, but we're protective of our kids because everybody who smiles and who seems sweet and genuine, perverts come in all shapes and sizes, and all professions, all walks of life. And so, to prevent my kids from being exposed to something, I'm just very careful about that. You know what I mean?
No, that's real. It better safe than sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the older we become, the more risk averse we also become. Right, we're not taking any unnecessary risks. Right, so yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So, whenever I was growing up, my mama did not play that. Oh man, she did not play that. So she's old school from Jamaica. Um, so going to stay the night at other people's house was not cutting it. But just like what you were saying, Quest, like I remember, like as I got older, I went to live with my dad and had the opportunity to go spend the night at some friend's house, and we got to chill, play the game and stuff like that. That it was actually fun. So the way I look at it is it's an outlet, but my mistake that I've seen that I've made in the past is not knowing the parents. Like, yeah, you could have a few conversations, but I'm like knowing the parents, like years, like knowing the parents, knowing their kids, knowing their mindset, what their beliefs are. Those things are important because if you don't match, your belief system doesn't match up, you're gonna let them go over there and they're gonna teach your kids all kind of wrong stuff, and then come back and they do it like this. So no, we don't play that. So I see it's very, very important to have that same like-mindedness. But then even with our 17-year-old, so she has 3 younger siblings, 3 under 6, and I look at it like giving her an opportunity to go and hang out with her friends, like similar age. But now I'll say she has a friend she hangs out with at church that we feel a lot more comfortable with, allowing her to go over there. Her mom has communication with the other girl's mom, so that's a good thing. As for the trust, I think it's all about that. All about that. I'll ask you this, Sir Hale. How about family? Do you let your kids like spend the night at even families?
So there's another artist who came out with a song, a Greek philosopher, and the song. so it really just depends, like, because just because they your blood don't mean they get your interests, and unless I don't like with their grandma, yeah, grandma gonna love them just like I do. There's some relatives, absolutely, but in general, it ain't like it ain't like we were growing up. It's not like we were growing up. We can go spend that over anybody's house, and everybody had this code of conduct. And if somebody got out of line, calls are going to be made around the house. It's just different today. The whole sense of protection and family and honor and respect and protecting our kids' innocence. Some people just think because they was loose at that age, and they think, "Hey, I came out okay." Well, just because you were okay with that doesn't mean our kids should be exposed. So I can't say just for family. So I for the sake of not flagging the stream, for copyright infringement, I won't quote the song from the French philosopher, but it was similar to the one that I quoted before.
I don't think you can get flagged for saying somebody else's lyrics on here. If you play the music, you can. But yeah, so hey man, you funny, bro. Oh my god. Hey, what I say is I want to know who these parents are, and to what you're saying, family members too, right? Like I want to know who they are, but more importantly, I want them to know who I am, right? And understand like what's gonna come along with you playing with me or ever playing with my child. Like it's just like I said earlier, it's a little different over here. You know what I'm saying? I want them to understand me, and so that there's a level of fear almost that I better not play with this man and his children ever. Right. So yes, to your point, I do want to know who they are, but as equally, if not maybe even a little bit more importantly, you better know who the fuck I am.
Quest, 100%. 100%. Listen, when I go meet these people, hey, how you doing? You good? Yeah, I'm this is my child. We drive hard, we walk hard, we shake hands hard. I want you to understand that these are my kids, and there's no length that I won't go to make sure that they're protected. So as long as you know that, I think we're gonna have a really good time. And then parents who have the same mindset, they're not gonna be upset. They're gonna respect that because that's what parents do.
Exactly. When I did an interview with Humble Dad, he asked me. It's a question he always asks the guys that he interviews, the fathers that he interviews, is what TV dad do you closely relate yourself to? And I was thinking that a lot of people probably give like the Uncle Phil's, the Carl Winslows, Rock. I know y'all remember Rock. Y'all remember that TV show? I'm assuming everybody here on the panel older than me, right? Everybody older than 40?
No, Dwayne's not.
I'm 35.
Oh, okay. All right, my bad.
Yeah,
Dwayne, how old are you, Dwayne?
34.
Oh, so you may not even know about Rock. Do you know about Rock? You might be too young for Rock. But anyway, so I'm thinking that this is what, typical guys are saying, but for me, it was the Michael B. Jordan character that he played just recently. He had a movie that came out on Amazon Prime. And I think it was like No Remorse. I think it was what it was called.
Yes, sir.
Without Remorse or something like that.
Yeah, I remember you. Yeah, I remember you said that.
That's who I said, right? Because in the movie, he does not go. There's no length. There's no limit to what he won't do for his wife and his children. No limit whatsoever, right? So, yeah, like I want folks to understand that about me. Like I'm not about my kids. So that's why I said maybe a level of fear. You know what I mean? Even it's like, hey, if I'm gonna be watching him, we gonna roll out the red carpet for this child. What do you want for laying him? Yes, I want all that shit. I want everything rolled out properly. Right. And that's what we're supposed to do, because if you trust me enough to have your kids over here with my son, for example, that's how it's going to be laid out. Right. Like my wife and I always talk, because she was like, we weren't able to really go stay at anybody else's house, But our house was the come-to house that everybody came over our house, right? Everybody did. All the little, like Tori's friend was her brother, all his friends, they would come over, and same thing with her friends. They would all come over to their house. And we had this conversation, like, that's the kind of household I want to have, right? I want to have a level of control over who's around my kids, being able to observe activities, behaviors, all these different things. So we talk about all the time, like this final house that we're going to build, right? We wanted to have all the cool stuff that all the kids going to want to have. Got to have a pool, got to have a lounge area, got to have a game area. Because I want kids to be like, oh, I want to go over to Roy's house. I want to go hang out over there. Good. Come on, hang on out so I can observe everything, right? So, yeah.
That's dope. That's really dope. I didn't know that. I like that you asked those questions because those are very thought-provoking questions. For me, it had been a challenge because me losing Jen, now the situation had changed because most times we didn't let nobody keep our kids other than Shan and my brother and maybe their grandmother, right? That was it, right? But then it was like I need a break because I was in mourning, right? But I still made sure that I trusted the people that my kids would spend the night over. I think it may have been maybe one additional person that was added to the mix. You know what I'm saying? Now we can have these day trips. You know what I'm saying? You know, a short day trip is okay, but the overnight stay, well, you know, that's not gonna happen. I forgot. I mean, and Jen was good about making sure she knew who the parent was. Like she had to have known that mother or father for quite a long time. And so G, our oldest, was a girl. She's only spent the night over by herself, one person. And Jen, I was like, are you sure? Because, man, if you knew Jen, what Shan did, that was her best friend, she was like, my babies ain't going nowhere. So I said, so if you're, that meant me comfortable because she said, listen, she can go over there because I trust her mother, you know, and her father, you know what I'm saying? So that was the only time that she's ever spent the night over somebody's house. And so now I'm definitely even more watchful of who houses they go over, you know, because I don't know as many people as Jen did, you know what I'm saying? So for me, nobody goes nowhere unless it's over Shan house, over grandmama house. that's probably about it for me. So this is really good. I'm gonna segue into when y'all was talking about conversations about what you have with girls and boys. Now society teaches this statement, right? That I don't even think I'm not gonna even put it like that. I'm gonna just ask the question. Girls are told to wait, but boys are told to try before you buy. What's your thought?
Wait. I just want to make sure we got this right.
Oh yeah, I can read it.
Yeah,
again.
you heard it right.
I can read it again.
We need to keep our legs closed, and you can spread those seeds.
No, he didn't say spread no seeds. He said
that's what you're doing. If you're trying before you buy it, you're spreading your seeds.
No, you ain't.
Just because it gets flushed doesn't mean it's not being spread.
All right.
Let's talk about it. I see where we at. So girls are told to wait, boys are told to go get it. Thoughts?
So I've been on plenty of panels and I've told, and I've been very vocal about men playing the field, going out, you know, have sex with women, right? But here's the thing. I think we need to be, I don't think we need to just be careless about it, right? I think we need to be very deliberate. We need to be honest. We need to protect ourselves at all times, right? But I think we need to be honest with these young ladies that we're out here sleeping around with or in having sexual relationships with or what have you. It does nobody any good by you deceiving a woman, making them think that you are trying to create this beautiful relationship and, you know, I want to be with you forever, baby, da 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 da, in order to get sex from this woman, and once you have sex with this woman, then you leave out here for the streets, right? I think that's stupid and ignorant. And I'll be honest and say that when I was young, I was doing ignorant stuff like that. I was. When I got older, and one of the things that sticks out in my mind that my father told me was stop lying to women. Be honest, right? They'll receive it way more. Even if all you're trying to do is get the cookies, be honest about it. And I did, and they really respected it. I even was told, "Hey, you are a breath of fresh air," exact words from a woman. So, and the reason why I tell men to go out here and do that is because I think, and this is just me, I think you have to get certain things out of your system before it is time for you to settle down and have a family, right? You want to create a household with your wife, you know, and have children and things like that. If you're doing that, you don't want to still be out here in the streets kind of ducking off and lying and still sneaking around and doing all these different things or whatever. So that's why I encourage men to get it out their system. Because once it's out, ain't nothing you got to worry about no more. But I don't think that's the same. I don't think that holds true for young ladies. You guys become attached to whoever it is that you all have sex with. Men can kind of just more or less, because we're going to speak in general terms here, right? We're not going to ever sit back and be like, all men can do or all women can do, right? But women tend to grow attached to the men that they have sex with. And they kind of ruin themselves over time by creating these attachments and then it getting broken. Attachment and then it gets broken. Create an attachment and then it gets broken. And like I said, it's not the same for young men. And then now, what are you bringing to the table to a guy who actually wants to be your husband? What you about to say, Shanteri? I'm being honest. What you bring a lot of traumatic stuff with you to a relationship because of all the sexual contacts you may have had with men. I think that's
it's a double-edged sword, because while you were saying go get it out your system, they got to get it out their system with somebody. And it's going to be us. It's going to be us getting attached to them, right? So it's very hard to say that. Now, if we come from a biblical perspective, it shouldn't matter that you need to get it out your system. The Bible says what it says.
Everybody don't believe in the Bible. Everybody don't believe in the Bible.
Perfectly fine with that. I'm giving you both ways. So from a biblical perspective, we just need to sit down somewhere, right? Until marriage. However, practice some self-control. It is what it is, right? Here's the other thing, because, you tell men to do that. Who's going to get caught up? Us. We're going to get caught up in these feelings and these emotions. Then we also got to get caught up in y'all's whole body count.
So
you got to be practicing on somebody. You have to screw somebody.
But that's why I say be honest when you do. So in my head, when I say be honest about what it is that you're doing, what your intentions are as young men out here, and you want to have sex with a woman, and you're telling them like, hey, this is just a sexual relationship. This isn't necessarily us trying to create, we're not trying to be your boyfriend. We just hooking up, right? And it's nothing deeper than that. When you have those upfront conversations, it tends to make things a little bit more palatable with women, as far as like them not being so caught up into it. But
so can I speak on this as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
Since we're talking about intimacy, I want to insert something. So
let's go.
Whose man is this?
Where are these buttons at?
So I think it's important if we take that approach and we tell our young girls, or let's just say older teenagers, that it's just fun. There's ain't no feelings involved. What we're doing is we're training her to be calloused when it comes to sex. And this is where I think that we've got a generation of women who can just be as promiscuous as men do and as reckless and have to pay for that later in life. So I think that sexuality for women has to be coupled with emotional connection. I think that's a biological thing that we don't want to mess up. We don't want to ruin women later on in life. The bigger issue is, I do think that we tell our girls to wait and tell our boys to go get it when we should be teaching them value. If we teach our boys how to value what they have, that you can't just be going out making everybody in the street sound like this. You can't bless everybody. You have to save what you have for the woman of your dreams. Then we could eliminate this whole concept of 304s and women who are for the streets, because we control that. And so I'll recommend wait. If you have to, have conversations, if you have to, talk through it, it's better for you to wait, find somebody you can love, and all the stuff you want to do, you find the right person. You got a whole lot of years that you guys can learn to flip it. If you want to swing from the chandelier, you can do what you want to do, but wait and find the right person, and you guys can enjoy each other that way.
Listen, y'all gotta go
Hey,
check.
but let me ask, and I love how animated this is. This is hilarious. But how realistic is this in 2022 to suggest that young boys hold out until you find the woman that you want to be with for the rest of your life? Like, ideally, yes, I would love for things to be like that. It's just not realistic, right? Like, at least I don't think so. I just don't think it's realistic. Kids are out here smashing. They are. So I'm like, okay, if you're gonna do it, tell the truth and protect yourself at all times, right?
I agree with that.
It's just, I really agree with your point, Sir Hale. But like I said, if we go into the inner city right now and we start talking to these kids in the hood, in the projects right now about this and say, value what you have, they're gonna be like, nigga, I'm finna go smash. Okay, so now in my head, I'm like, okay, well, if you are gonna do it, protect yourself at all times, and I promise you'll get way more respect if you're honest with whoever it is that you're out here doing whatever it is you're doing with.
Now that's 100% real. I can't even disagree with that. So protect yourself. There's two components. There's the people who ain't started yet. That's what I'm speaking to. For people who are already in it, right? You got to protect yourself, because I want you to look at yourself 10 years from now. I don't want you at 32 talking about all the women you smashed. You ain't got $1,000 saved up. You ain't got nothing going for yourself. You just got memories. And that's what I'm looking for a lot of these young men, because a lot of them talking about, man, I hit that. Yeah, but you haven't hit any of your goals in life. So who you able to pipe down?
That right there, bro.
Who you're able to pipe down it means nothing if you are not becoming something in life. And I think a lot of our men, particularly our Black men, we make the mission of our life sex, which is why we seek it in everything that we do. And I want men to be able to control their sexuality, because a man who can say no to sex is a powerful man, and he can get women, he can get respect because he has the ability to say no. And that's what I mean. So what you're saying is 100% right. I definitely agree about that.
All right. So lovely. I appreciate y'all's perspective on this. So Ms. Interior earlier talked about finances. And so I'm trying to approach this from a financial perspective. So it says 3 things you got to do to stay above the poverty line. And it says graduate high school, don't have kids out of wedlock, and it says get a job. So Quest, whenever you're talking about going to the inner city, right? I look at the standpoint, and Sir Hale, when you were talking about don't even have $1,000 to your name, I think you got to prioritize. And as for young men, as for young women, prioritize, because whenever you get into a situation where you are having sex out of wedlock and you have a child, and the person that you had the child with, y'all don't stay together, that automatically splits your income. So after you then end up getting a job, then what happens? You end up messing around having to pay child support. You get caught up in these different situations, and it limits the things that you can do, not just financially, but also for the child itself. So one of the things is as for setting an example. So Quest, I completely get where you're coming from, where it's like it's difficult. I could tell you, like, I didn't do it. I didn't wait. But that's one of the things that I'm going to try um, to teach my children, my sons, my daughters, is as for waiting. So another angle of this that I look at it from is like the situation with abortions, right? Um, Commitment. We lack commitment in our society today. We lack commitment. So like we make a mistake, we automatically want to figure out a way to get out of this situation. And the most convenient way now is, hey, you sleep with a girl, you don't want the baby, guess what? Get an abortion. What does that do to a nation spiritually? That's a perspective I look at it from. Um, and also, whenever they say, as for the women, my body, my choice, and the women can, do their thing, it removes a lot of responsibility from the men. A lot of responsibility from the men. Do women have a role to play? Absolutely, because guess what? A guy can't put himself on you without breaking the law, because you have the ability to say no, and you have to have consent in it. So, as for, if that gentleman really loves you, he'll wait. If you really love yourself and have respect for yourself, you'll wait for him to commit to you. And that's where marriage comes in and plays a huge role, because it's so easy, again, going back to commitment, it's so easy to be like, all right, I got that. Wasn't what I expected. But guess what? I'm being honest with you. I got to go. And now the woman's attached. She got a whole lot of baggage going into the next relationship. And then it gets to a standpoint for me where she starts losing respect for herself and start approaching it like the men and start being honest. And when they start being honest, they just trying to get as much as what they want as possible. And that's where I see, as for a culture where you have women out here for the streets, and then you have men out here for the streets. And guess what? Who suffers? They have kids, and then the kids start off being in broken homes, and then you have a broken society with a whole bunch of problems. So, my perspective.
Well, I'm gonna push back on that just a little bit,
Please, please.
and only because, and I say this to women, especially our women, right? Because I don't really care about nobody else women. I don't really give a shit, right? But I care about black women, right? Just because you get pregnant black woman does not mean you have to have a child. Now, I know there's going to be some pushback there that people are going to say, hey, well, I don't believe in abortion. And typically that's because of religious reasons, things like that. But I'm like, that's also that same religion that said your ass shouldn't have been fornicating to begin with. Right.
Correct.
So we can't have double standards, and we can't pick and choose on what Bible verse we going to rock with versus the other one. If you this, you're that. Right. So and the way I see it is, I think it's very selfish to bring children into this world all because, oh, I just feel like it's just going to be so great, da 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 da, and you're not thinking about the second and third order effects of bringing a child into a world that is broken, into a household that's broken, right? So that's my bit of pushback. There is, just because a young lady gets pregnant doesn't mean she has to have
Yeah.
this child, especially if the situation isn't, at least more close to ideal than, you went home with some dude from the club and y'all started smashing, and now you pregnant, right? That's
Yeah.
not ideal at all, and that's not fair to that child either.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that, because it to me it's hypocritical to approach it like that, um, but also then believe that we do live and learn. So I'll be completely transparent. I mean, I participated in that abortion stuff, and I'll be honest with you now. That ain't what I would. As for my kids, I do not desire to put them in that situation. So it's more selfish for me to desire to make somebody else, penalize them for my mistake. So my mistake is getting into a situation and not laying the foundation. Laying the foundation ultimately is marriage. You leave your house, you leave your parents, and you cleave to your wife. So in that, I look at it from the standpoint of, most of the people are punishing a third party now because they're mistakes. So in that, I believe before we get into that situation, before we get to that point, we have many other choices before that. Many other choices. The ultimate choice is to abstain completely, right? And then make sure your foundation is laid before you get into that situation, because now you know for sure. Like you were making mention earlier, you said, you know what? I made sure that my wife or the lady that I chose grew up in a 2-parent household. That is a heck of a criteria. Like, because man, she's bad. She's off the list. Man, she's off the list, because it doesn't meet that criteria, right? So you're not setting something up on a sand foundation. You want something solid, and I respect that. But then going forward, it's more of setting more pillars to those foundations before you get into the standpoint where, hey, we make mistakes, but then how do you then put yourself in a situation where you can't just easily dip out? And ultimately, it shows so much more respect for the women whenever a man commits, because it's so easy for them. Yeah, they could be honest, but then they could be honest after they get their heart. And that to me is difficult, because there's so many. I could go on an apology tour, like, hey, I'm sorry, because
And I'll be right there with you.
And so I don't desire to have my kids in a situation like that, where they enter into something where they're just leaving a wake of sadness behind them. Yeah, I mean, you learn, you live and you learn, but it's like, man, you could do it out.
So I'll say this: that list of apologies that I owe these women stop once I start telling the truth, and I was very like intentional about being honest to women about. I'm sorry, when I was being honest to women about what my intentions were. That list stops right there. I don't have anything to apologize for after that. But prior to that, when I was just out here being a savage and just putting the most ridiculous stunts, yeah, I got a lot to apologize for there. Which is another reason why I say, like, hey, you absolve yourself from a lot of like silliness and just ignorance as long as you just be honest.
Let me ask you.
And I did want to say this. Remember how I was saying, my bad, sorry. Remember how I said earlier, Sir Hale, where I was like, it's idealistic, but then let's just be realistic here with these young men that's in the inner city right now. I'm be honest, I think even protecting yourself and just being honest, even that's a stretch. Even that's an absolute stretch right now. If I was to go grab 10 young boys from the park right up here and be like, hey, moving forward, I want y'all to just tell women the truth about what your intentions are and strap it up every single time. Protect yourself every single time. I bet you maybe two or one of them dudes actually do that.
Let me ask you this question real quick, because because the question was, how do you teach your sons in the same room with your daughters? Right. So we talking to our daughters, and we say, we need you to, we need you. I'm saying for you to wait, but I'm telling my son, you need to get it out your system, right? Because that's really what I was told, right? Well, I didn't even have a sex talk really. So when I went to college, I just learned from people that was around me. So how do you if that is going to be the thing, if you like, we want the woman to wait, but we want the dude not to wait. Like how would that conversation be held in a room full of boys and girls?
I don't think that's a very productive conversation. I don't think we should do that. Okay. But that's just me. I'm gonna back off. I'm gonna let.
No. I'm just curious. That's all. It's a very good conversation, because
there's no way that you can have that type of conversation with both in the room. That's not going to happen. As a woman, as a female, that's going to create some type of resentment. I'm going to try to understand why there's a double standard being created. So if you want to have that conversation with your sons, it definitely needs to be something that is done out separate. This is that time when you all were talking about at a certain age, men need to take control of conversations and women need to take control of that's when all of that needs to happen, if that's the road that you're going to go on. Outside of that, no.
Yeah, so I agree that it is the impractical. So here's how I look at things. If the way we've been doing things are making our society better, let's continue to do it. But if what we are doing is not, then we have to look at what's real and create a new one. And that's going to take work. That takes years to do that. So my mother told me this. She would always make me read through Proverbs, and it was always the adulterous woman. Right? I had to read through this about her cunning ways and about how she went after men who were broken. But the thing that my mother taught me, and I married my wife. We, once I got something, like we got to marry. We got to marry this thing, girl. But what kept me all that time was she told me that you're king. And she said that when a man lays with a woman, he gives up some of his power, and not to give up your power because you are a king. And my mother telling me that is literally what helped me to keep myself in that area. And I've won respect that way. And I can't say I've been out there. I can't say that it's not been my experience. And what that has done for me is I don't have emotional connections and memories and stuff. I don't have any of that. And I'm freed up to do things that I wouldn't have to worry about. Like in my family, most of us, like, I'll just get personal for a second. I'm a child of adultery. And so growing up as that, the shame, the sadness, you can't go meet these people because of all of this, I wanted to break that in my family. So I got married and all my kids are by my wife. And I took a stand because I want young men to see that it is possible. You don't have to be out here sleeping with everything that you get just because you get hard, and it's going to get easy. I mean, it's going to get difficult sometimes. And if you have to, go to the store and invest in a bottle of Jergens, do what you got to do, but stay away from this because it can lead to pregnancy. It can lead to STIs, right? Do what you got to do. And then as you prepare yourself to be a man, and this is where I get a little bit religious, that a man who works on himself, God sees the effort you're putting in, and he's going to send you somebody who will take care of your needs in that area. And so take that approach, because you're right. It's not practical, but our practical is not working for us moving ahead. And I think we got to make steps to do better.
That's what's up.
I definitely agree.
Well said. Well said.
That's what's up. Well, this has been a dope conversation. Oh, Dwayne, did you have something to say?
Yeah,
I
do have a question. So, what would it look like if a female starts to be open and honest in what she wants? How would that make you feel, Quest?
I got you, Quest.
So I don't know. I'm a person of, like, I like integrity. I like honesty. No matter how raw and uncut it is, I'd rather you be honest with me than to lead me astray on some bullshit that got me thinking one way, and you actually have ulterior motives here. So if you're up front and you're saying, hey, I'm actually looking for a relationship, I'm not really into having sex and being promiscuous, that's not what I'm about at all, and you're honest and that is who you really are, I love to hear it, because now I know, hey, you know what? I probably shouldn't go in here and trying to, push the envelopes, trying to get some panties with this woman. She's been very honest with me. Let's just flip it though, right? Let's make it a little bit more raw. If she comes to me, because I think what you're getting at, Dwayne, if she comes to me and she's like, I'm trying to smash, what's up? First off, I'm turned off immediately by this.
Exactly.
But the thing is, we are not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Men don't respect that from women. And if I was to ask the only woman sitting on the panel, Miss Shanteri, would you respect a man a lot more if he came at you honest and said, hey, look, I'm attracted to you, I'd like to, like, let's go hang out, but with intentions to, at some point take it there. Would you respect that more, or a dude who was just kind of moving and saying things and clearly this nigga's lying, right? With hopes of getting some cookies. Would you rather him be upfront or would you rather him lie?
I'm very much like you with the blatant honesty. So I'm gonna respect you a lot more if you just are upfront with it. I know it allows me the opportunity to know how far I want to go, or if I don't want to go there at all.
Right.
So it allows me choice. And when you are sliding and sneaking, then you take away what I feel is my choice in the situation. So honesty, definitely, hands down.
Yeah, and women are typically more attracted to that type of honesty, right? Whereas just because you honest and you tell me that you just want to smash me, woman saying that to me, I'm not going to be attracted to that, because in my head I'm thinking, how many other niggas did you approach today? Today with this exact same lines? Like, I'm cool. Also, another thing is women tend not to care about men's body counts, and men tend to typically care more so about body counts, right? So a woman is not going to be tripping if I approach them. I'm married, but if I approach them and said, hey, you know what, I'm just trying to smash, she's not going to be worried about like, well, I wonder how many other women he smashed. Typically, right? Not all women, but typically. But if a woman was to say this to a man, I'm trying to find out how many niggas you said this to today, let alone ever.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I guess the reason why I'm asking that is because, like, as for this current generation and all the apps and all that, Tinder, per se, it's that's the type of environment in which we are in now, where it's like you don't even have to meet the person really initially. You just swipe and that's your honesty right there. It's I'm interested in that, and that's about it. And I find that interesting because, to what you were saying, Sir Hale, I think that in itself is not a good thing for society as a whole. Socially, it's not a good thing, because I think it degrades society. My opinion, how I see it.
I can agree with that too.
This has been phenomenal. I really want to thank all y'all support, you know what I'm saying, of the channel. And I'm just trying new things, man. Y'all had really good content and conversation, man. Like I didn't have to ask too many questions, so y'all made this really easy for me. So I appreciate it, man. And kind of tell people where they can find you at before we get out of here. Quest, we'll go with you, then Chantel, Wayne, then Sir Hale Speaks.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not on any platform as of yet, except for Lapeef. You can catch me there. But you can also catch me on my Instagram at Quest, and then put 4 underscores, just like it's seen right on my little name tape right here.
I ain't know how many of those were, man. I'm glad you made sure you told
Yeah,
me.
it's 4 underscores. I'm the guy that lives in Tampa. Pretty soon we got something coming to you all, me and Mr. Logic. So stay tuned for that. That's gonna be something special.
That's what's up. Tell us where they can find you, Miss Shanteri.
On Facebook and Instagram, Renewed Lens. Renewed Lens.
Yeah, I saw the latest video. It was short.
The dancing video?
Yeah.
Look, they be trying to catch me at night when I'm on my way to bed. We need to get it in and get it out.
Okay, that's what it was. All right. Dwayne, the antisocial.
Antisocial. No, you know what? I'm not on any social media platform. I do photography on the side. So if anybody need any pictures or anything like that, DwayneJonesPhotography.com.
And the man with all the sound effects, with the songs. Hey man, you brought it. I really appreciate that, Doc. Mr. Sir Hale Speaks, where can they find you?
Before I do this, I want to make sure I say this to America. If you guys have just tuned into this stream or watching this afterwards, be sure to smash that like button. Be sure to subscribe and invite people to follow this great content creator, Humble Dad. I'm Sir Hale Speaks. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, on my website, and here on YouTube. It's Sir Hale Speaks. We appreciate it. Thanks so much.
For sure, man. And y'all got to go over there. Like, he got some really good content for sure. All right.
I'm coming to check you out, Sir Hale.
Well, that's been all, folks, man. I really appreciate the time. And until next time, we out here. Deuces. Peace out.